Shohei Ohtani on the player I strive to be. Looking back on the 2025 season. In 2025, Shohei Ohtani once again shattered the limits of what people thought was possible in baseball. After returning from his second Tommy John surgery, he climbed back onto the mound as a pitcher. He made 14 starts, posting a 2.87 ERA and a 1.04 WHIP, and an astonishing strikeout rate of 11.87 per 9 innings. At the plate, he crushed 55 home runs, drove in 102 runs, scored 146 times, and recorded an OPS of 1.014. It was nothing short of the very image of the ideal two-way player. But before the season even began, did Ohtani himself imagine he would reach such heights? And now, with his comeback season complete, how does he describe the ideal player he continues to strive toward? In this video, we share Shohei Ohtani's own words, his honest thoughts spoken to Japanese reporters, brought to you in English. Chapter 1. Mindset before the season. Determination for a last chance. During spring training in 2025, as he entered his second year with the Dodgers, Ohtani's mindset was markedly different from the previous year. Reflecting on the 2024 camp, he shared how this year's approach has changed. Yeah, especially the first day felt completely different. Last year, I didn't know anybody. Everyone was new to me, so I spent the whole time introducing myself. Nice to meet you, over and over again. Coming off a legendary 50-50 season, Ohtani had firmly established himself as the centerpiece of the team. But at only 30 years old, his sights were already set further ahead, driven by an endless desire to improve. I don't feel like this is the peak for me, technically or physically. I believe there's more to come. At the same time, I do feel like I've reached this step a little earlier than I expected. As time goes on, new techniques and new approaches always emerge, and I think I've been able to adapt to those changes. Last year, he was often seen giving advice to younger teammates in the dugout. When asked if he was interested in teaching his own skills to others, Ohtani answered carefully. I've made plenty of mistakes myself, and because of that, I don't want to tell people something that might turn out to be wrong, or teach it as a technique. I mean, if Ichiro-san told me, "You're holding the bat wrong," I'd probably switch the way I hold the bat the very next day. Because there is no single absolute answer in baseball, he also feels the weight of responsibility when sharing knowledge. Perhaps this humility reflects his belief that constantly adapting to change is part of his ideal. Ohtani continued, "Right now, I do feel I've been able to adapt to the environment around me. The way people think about hitting and pitching changes with the times, and I think I've kept up with those changes while still being able to do what I want to do. In both pitching and hitting, I feel like I'm getting closer to my ideal, but it could all change suddenly one day. It's never something I consider absolute." Another major theme for this season was returning as a pitcher after my second Tommy John surgery. Where was Ohtani aiming for a full comeback as a pitcher? Before the season began, looking toward the future, he said, "I want to time it for this year's postseason. I think the most important thing this year is to go through the stages during the regular season and see how good of a condition I can be in as a pitcher by the end." Was returning to the mound really that tough? Ohtani, smiling, described what it felt like to adjust again as a two-way player. "It finally feels normal again. Last year during spring training, even though I was rehabbing as a pitcher, my daily routine was only hitter work. Honestly, there wasn't much to do. Hit in the cage, lift weights, then go home. It felt like I barely had anything on my schedule." On the other hand, recovering from his dislocated left shoulder turned out to be more complicated than expected. If there was a tough part, it was that the rehab also included my dislocated left shoulder. It wasn't about how severe the injury was, but once you mess with the shoulder, there's just so much you need to do to get it back to normal. The shoulder is a much more complex joint than the elbow, so you have to move it in every direction. Internal rotation, external rotation, raising, lowering, pulling, pushing. It all takes work. Had it not been for the dislocated shoulder suffered in the previous year's postseason, his return might have gone more smoothly. But more than anything, Ohtani carried a sense of absolute resolve in coming back as a pitcher after a second surgery on his right elbow. In my mind, this is my last chance as a pitcher. Or at least, I'm approaching it with that level of seriousness. That's why I have to be cautious. During rehab, I try to be as careful as I possibly can, but when it comes to a game performance, I'm not going to take a slow and steady approach. I want to draw a clear line there. So what kind of pitcher does Ohtani see as his ideal? Surprisingly, his vision hasn't changed. It's the same dream he had as a child, to be a power pitcher. No matter how far I go, in my mind, I still want to pitch as a power pitcher. Ever since I was little, I've admired those kinds of pitchers. The ones who throw with power. I've always liked pitchers who had that bold, dominating presence. To me, it's more exciting to watch a pitcher who throws incredible stuff. Fastballs and breaking balls, both with top quality, rather than someone who relies mainly on control around the edges. That's the type of pitcher I wanted to become as a kid. And I don't want to change that now. Last year, Ohtani also stole 50 bases. When asked if his stolen base numbers would drop now that he was back as a pitcher, his answer was unexpected. Stolen bases? Honestly, if I don't have to run, I won't. The most important thing is not getting caught. If advancing a base helps us score runs, I'll go for it. But if running isn't necessary, I won't. I'm not running for personal records. Winning always comes first. Scoring runs for the team is the priority. If it gives us a better chance to score by leaving it to the hitters behind me, then that's what I'll do. Chapter 2: A Revolutionary Decision. Rehab outings and real games. For most pitchers returning from injury, rehab outings usually take place in the minors, gradually building up before returning to the majors. But for Shohei Ohtani, that wasn't an option. As a hitter, he had to stay in the Dodgers' major league lineup. That meant he couldn't simply disappear to pitch in minor league games. He did throw in live batting practice sessions, facing teammates in controlled settings, but that wasn't quite the same as real competition. For a two-way player who needs to stay active in real games, what would be the ideal process? In the end, Ohtani made a decision no one had ever made before: to skip the usual rehab process and make his comeback appearances directly in official major league games. Behind this groundbreaking choice was Ohtani's unique two-way logic. If I threw, say, 4 innings in a live BP session, I was worried the intensity wouldn't really increase. Pitch by pitch, the intensity naturally rises more when you're in an actual game, with fans watching, facing real batters. That's when the effort level goes up. Also, since I'm registered as a two-way player, if I can give the team even 1 or 2 innings in a real game, that actually reduces the strain on the bullpen. Looking at it from the overall broader perspective, I felt this path made more sense. That's why I chose it. Balancing his own rehab with the needs of the team, without sacrificing one for the other, but instead striving to harmonize both. This mindset reflected Ohtani's very vision of the ideal player. With my personality, I'm the type whose velocity climbs more in real games. In bullpens, my speed just doesn't come out. Even when I was throwing in live BP, I couldn't shake the worry. Would my velocity really be there in a real game? Would I hit 99 or 100 miles per hour or not? I wanted to confirm that for myself. It was a process no ordinary player would even consider. And that's why, among baseball insiders, Ohtani's decision became the subject of shock and amazement, a move many simply called unbelievable. Chapter 3: The Philosophy of a Power Pitcher. I want to throw the kind of pitch I can't hit myself. In his comeback outings, Ohtani delivered performances that defied belief. Against the powerhouse Padres lineup, he unleashed 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, pitching as though his elbow had never been injured. From there, in shorter stints on the mound, he steadily progressed, eventually firing fastballs up to 102 miles per hour, mixing in a sinker and a biting slider, his signature splitter, and a sharply breaking curve. It was the arsenal of a true ace. When asked again about the qualities of the ideal power pitcher, Ohtani gave this answer. The conditions for a power pitcher? For me, it's being able to throw a fastball to a hitter who's sitting on a fastball. He's geared up for it, and still only get a foul ball. If the batter swings looking for the heater, and it still ends up as just a foul, that's what I consider the mark of a power pitcher. Ohtani's vision of a power pitcher isn't just about raw velocity. It's about throwing pitches that even Shohei Ohtani the hitter couldn't handle. His unique dual perspective shapes his entire approach. That hasn't changed. As a pitcher, I just want to throw pitches that the hitter version of me wouldn't be able to hit. Whether it's numbers or feel, I know what kinds of fastballs are tough for me as a batter, and what kind of breaking balls I don't like. That's the target I aim for. This is the essence of this two-way mindset, drawing from his experiences in the batter's box to refine his pitching craft. When I design my fastball or breaking ball movement, I always think in terms of what's hard for me to hit. I'm a left-handed batter, so when I face lefties, I try to imagine what kind of pitches or movement would be toughest for me, and then I throw those. And for Ohtani, the pursuit of the ultimate power pitcher even extends to one of baseball's holy grails, 170 kilometers per hour, or 105 miles per hour. 170 kilometers? If I could throw it, of course I'd love to. As a starter, it's probably pretty tough though. But he also knows the risk that comes with chasing that kind of velocity, the destiny of every power pitcher. I think consistency is more important than just trying to adjust my form. The faster you throw, the more you try to muscle up, the more you drift away from your ideal mechanics, and for pitchers who throw hard, even the smallest mistake, like being late with your arm on just one pitch, can be enough to tear or damage the elbow ligament. That's the fate of a power pitcher. Ohtani also spoke with a deep, scientific awareness of the stress different pitches place on the body. He explained the risks of breaking balls with both high velocity and sharp movement. With breaking balls, the ones with both high velocity and a big break to put the most stress on the arm. Especially pitches that move toward the glove side tend to create more strain. Take a sweeper, for example. If you miss and yank it, it puts extra stress on the joint and the ligament. That's why the risk is higher. Chapter 4. Ohtani's philosophy of hitting. I don't believe what I'm doing now is the final answer. By his 8th year in the majors, Shohei Ohtani had reached a new frontier in his hitting philosophy. A blend of data and instinct. But when it comes to speaking about his own technique, Ohtani is extremely cautious. He always prefaces his remarks with one phrase. This is not the final answer. Behind those words lies a deep philosophy. When I talk about my current environment and the level of results I've been able to put up, I can point to certain techniques as one of the reasons. But I don't think this is the final answer, and I don't believe it will remain the answer moving forward either. My perspective will change over time, and I think having the flexibility to accept that is important. For Ohtani, there is no such thing as an eternal formula. What he pursues is always just the answer for now. That humility toward technique is rooted in his past experiences, and it is reflected in the comment introduced earlier. I've made plenty of mistakes myself, and because of that, I don't want to tell people something that might turn out to be wrong or teach it as a technique. I mean, if Ichiro-san told me, "You're holding the bat wrong," I'd probably switch the way I would hold the bat the very next day. Ichiro, the player he idolized since childhood, remains the standard by which Ohtani measures himself. But even with such reverence, his hitting philosophy is innovative and flexible. A key turning point in his development was rethinking the traditional Japanese approach to hitting. In the US, the goal is to hit for power. In Japan, the emphasis has long been on small ball tactics. Ohtani explains the difference in thinking. Back in the day, in Japan, the kind of swing I use now was not recommended. We were told to put spin on the ball to help it carry, and I used to swing with that mindset. But now, if you try to hit that way, it's inefficient. You lose too much potential power. He describes his current swing and how he envisions making contact. Now, I try to crush the ball with 100% of my strength. To do that, instead of aiming for the lower half of the ball, I try to pierce straight through the core from directly behind. That's the kind of swing path I focus on. At the heart of this theory is aligning the bat's trajectory with the ball's path. If the swing path matches the ball's path, then you can hit the ball squarely from behind. And if your bat follows that trajectory, even if your timing is a little late or a little early, the ball will still go somewhere. If you're late, it'll go to left field. If you're early, to the right. And if you're right on time, it'll go straight to the center. That's really all it is. With elite swing speed and explosive power, Ohtani can afford to keep things simple. His thinking is possible only because of the extraordinary physical base he's built through relentless training. He also has his own philosophy on batting stance. I take a middle ground. Not leaning forward too much, not standing straight up either. Somewhere in between, with my body at an angle where I can rotate and spin around my spine at 90 degrees. This, for Ohtani, was the culmination of what he calls the baseball board game swing he had always envisioned since childhood. One of the biggest changes in his 7 years in the majors, however, was his approach to data. The biggest change since coming to the majors is learning how to interpret data. In America, there's this culture of prediction. Scientists collect huge amounts of data, and I've learned to compare that to my own feel for the game. That combination is important. But for Ohtani, data is not absolute. Players like us tend to rely more on feel, while scientists look at numbers. So first, I try to understand what the data is saying. For example, if the exit velocity and launch angle are at certain numbers, then the ball will carry into the stands. Or if I swing with a certain amount of force, my swing speed will be this much. I try to align those numbers with my own sense of feel. To use this data, you first need to understand the general picture. That's the key. That means sometimes I'll prioritize feel, sometimes data, and sometimes I'll combine the best of both. Among his 54 home runs in 2024, the one he valued most was number 50, an opposite field blast that symbolized his technical evolution. For number 50, I hit the ball squarely through the core from directly behind, and it carried all the way. Usually, when you hit it perfectly like that, it goes to center or right, but this one went to left. To me, it felt like a clean, wind-resistant hit that I could drive to the opposite field. That was a really good home run. Chapter 5. The Honest Truth from Ohtani the Hitter in 2025. This year, I still haven't hit my peak. Right after the All-Star break, Shohei Ohtani shared a surprisingly candid reflection. By now, he's a perennial MLB All-Star. And among the game's elite, he's found a clear common trait that defines players who remain at the top year after year. Of course, each player has their own individuality, but what stood out to me is that everyone has their routine set in stone. Wherever they go, even at the All-Star game, they just go through their routine smoothly, almost automatically. The players who've stayed at the top for a long time seem to really know exactly what they need to do. From Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays to Aaron Judge of the Yankees to his own teammate Freddie Freeman, Ohtani learned a great deal by watching those who remain constant fixtures at the All-Star level. But in July 2025, just after the first half of the season, Ohtani made an unexpected confession. This year, I still haven't had that stretch where I feel like I'm really locked in. Honestly, I don't even know if that stretch will come at all this year. You know that feeling of I can hit anything, no matter what pitch, no matter what location. I just haven't had that yet. That's why I can't think of a single home run this year that really stands out to me. I mean, I hit 30-something already, but none of them feel particularly memorable. Even with over 30 home runs by midseason, he said there wasn't a single one that left an impression on him. That comment alone showed just how high his personal standards truly are. For me, the best moments actually come before the swing, before the pitch is even thrown, when I can predict the pitch type, the location, my swing path, and timing all lining up perfectly. When I can tell, this is it. This at-bat is mine. And then the result matches exactly what I felt. That's when I get that sense of course I knew it. Even if the result is a home run, it's different when, as I'm standing there ready to hit, I already feel like, yeah, this is how it's going to go. And at an even higher level, there are times when I don't just feel it might happen, I feel like it will happen. That's when I know I'm really in top form. Looking back, Ohtani says he's experienced that peak feeling at least once every season, but sustaining it is the true challenge, and part of what makes baseball so endlessly difficult. The hardest part is maintaining that feeling. Most of the time, I'm not really sure about my form, whether I'm good or bad. That's actually what ends up defining most of the season. By mid-2025, Ohtani had already blasted over 30 home runs, a performance that fans and MLB insiders alike considered extraordinary. Yet for Ohtani himself, it still wasn't close to his best. Chapter 6: The Road Back to the Mound. A regular season with rehab. For Shohei Ohtani, pitching in the 2025 season carried a very special meaning. This year, as a pitcher, I see it as a regular season combined with rehab. Neither the doctors nor the rehab staff expected me to be at 100% right from the start. The idea is that as I pitch in games, the intensity will naturally build. What matters most is how well I can move through that process. He didn't even expect to throw at full strength immediately, but as he returned to the mound, his goal for that season was clear. I want to time it for this year's postseason. I think the most important thing this year is to go through stages during the regular season and see how good of a condition I can be in as a pitcher by the end. His adoption of the no wind-up delivery was part of that process. Looking at the rehab process, I thought this way of pitching was the best approach to throw more innings with less strain while still producing high output. Having stable command matters more to me than pure velocity. When I can control the game, it builds confidence in moving boldly, and I think that's also helping my velocity climb little by little. It had been a year and a half since his last outing on the mound. With 2 surgeries behind him, was there nervousness or fear about pitching again? Perhaps because he has already achieved so much as a hitter, Ohtani's mindset on the mound had evolved. I do feel nerves, but it's a different kind of nerves now. It's more like, thank you for this opportunity. When I was younger, being able to throw hard all the time was just normal. So back then, I wasn't grateful to pitch. I was only fixated on winning or losing, on whether I got hit or not. After going through ups and downs, and after surgeries, now just standing on the mound itself feels satisfying. That sense of gratitude gave him a new composure, one that now supported his pitching. Speaking to the reporters in May as he began bullpen sessions ahead of his comeback, Ohtani said, "One thing I can say for sure is that after the second surgery, my arm feels much better than after the first. That difference is huge for me. Being able to throw without worry is something I'm really grateful for. So instead of thinking about whether I'm back where I was, what matters most is a sense of security I have when I pitch now." In 2025, Ohtani returned as a true two-way player once again. He spoke openly about the challenges of that path. Basically, I think of pitching and hitting separately, so I don't really worry about doing both. But it's always difficult. As a pitcher, I have to think about many things, and then I step into the batter's box knowing I have to hit. That's always a challenge. And yet, Ohtani continues to pursue the two-way path. Not for the sake of records, but out of pure desire to keep exploring the possibilities of baseball. Chapter 7: The View from the Summit. a philosophy of fading away. At over 30 years old, Shohei Ohtani now speaks of his career as if it were a mountain climb. Nearing the summit, what kind of view does he see ahead? In terms of a mountain, I feel like I've already come close to the peak. So now, I'm wrestling with the idea that I need to think about the descent. Once you're past 30, it's really about how you fade away. When I was younger, all I felt was excitement about where I might end up, what kind of summit I would reach. But it's different now. As fans, we dream of Ohtani continuing to dominate as a two-way player until he's 40. But Ohtani's own vision is clear. Of course, if I could stay at the top until I die, that would be the best. If I could stay there until I'm 100, that would be great. But that's not how it works. Physically and technically, performance declines little by little. You fade. Still, even if my skills decline, I want to use strategy and my head to find ways to keep producing numbers close to my peak and remain competitive on the major league stage. Looking back, Ohtani admits that though there were difficult times, his baseball journey as a whole has been blessed. When it comes to baseball, the only truly tough times I've had were the surgeries. Thinking about it that way, I feel I've had a very fortunate career. From the start, there were doubts when I entered pro baseball at 18, wanting to both pitch and hit. Most people thought it was impossible, but thanks to the support of my teammates and seniors, I was warmly watched over, given chances to play every day in the first team in Japan, and then I came here. Other than the surgeries, it's been a smooth path. That's why the only words that come to my mind are, thank you very much. Chapter 8, a new source of support, the happiness of family. What now supports Ohtani more than anything is the family he's built. These days, I'm just happy to come home and have someone there. 2 years ago, I was by myself. Then Decoy came, my wife came, and our child came too. And before I knew it, we'd become a big family. When I was younger, I imagined that having a child must be the cutest thing ever. I thought if it actually happens, maybe it'll feel 10 times cuter. But in reality, it turned out to be 100 million times more adorable. Even in the off-season, Ohtani shared heartwarming moments with a teammate. During the off-season, Yoshinobu Yamamoto's dog stayed at my place in LA for about 3 weeks. When we first introduced them, Decoy didn't know how to play with other dogs. He had always been alone. Yoshinobu's dog kept chasing him around, and at first I wasn't sure how it would go. But after about 3 days, they started to get along. By Christmas and into the new year, Decoy actually began teasing Yoshinobu's dog. Since Yoshinobu's dog is bigger and heavier, he couldn't run much, while Decoy could. By the end, their roles had completely reversed. At home, Ohtani's thoughtfulness towards his wife also shone through. For lunch, I usually check the ballpark menu. If it looks good, I'll eat there. If it doesn't, I text my wife and ask, "Can I eat at home?" Then I head back to eat with her. She's pregnant, so ideally I try to eat at the ballpark to make things easier for her. But if the food there looks really unappetizing, well, home cooking is always better. In 2025, the birth of his first daughter changed Ohtani's daily life and role at home. Not just Shohei Ohtani the ballplayer, but Shohei Ohtani the father. Spending time with his daughter, even in the pool, became precious. Even just seeing my daughter sleep peacefully makes her adorable, and if she smiles, that's the best thing ever. Right now, I'm at that stage where every little thing gives me energy. Today, I want to get home and take her to our pool, so getting home will make me happy. So please, let me go home soon. Chapter 9. The challenge and joy of being a two-way. In 2025, Ohtani returned to playing as a two-way player, and he once again felt the challenge of it. There's definitely an adjustment period. It takes time to get used to going to the plate after pitching, and I think I need more repetitions to get into that rhythm. But basically, I think of pitching and hitting separately, so I don't really worry about doing both. Some might think that being a designated hitter is easier since there's no defensive work to do. But Ohtani pointed out another difficulty, the rhythm of preparation. As a DH, you hit and run every time, and when you're in good rhythm, it's fine. But when you're struggling or results aren't coming, it can be tough. Sometimes I'll strike out on 3 pitches and then wait for 30 or 40 minutes for my next turn at bat. Your body cools down and you have to start over. If I pitch once a week, I can't swing too many times during DH days, and I also have to limit the number of swings. That's part of the difficulty. Still, Ohtani has a clear vision for his role in the postseason. It would be a great honor for me if they asked me to start in the postseason. Whether that means pitching 3 innings, 4, or even 5, 6, or 7 innings will depend on my condition. I'm not fixated on throwing long innings as a starter. So what does Ohtani see as the ideal player? For him, it's not a final destination, but a process of constant evolution. I don't feel like this is the peak for me, technically or physically. I believe there's more to come. At the same time, I do feel like I've reached this step a little earlier than I have expected. As time goes on, new techniques and new approaches always emerge, and I think I've been able to adapt to those changes. Shohei Ohtani's journey is far from over. Even as he acknowledges he's nearing the mountaintop, he once said his goal is to stay at the summit until I'm 100 years old. His vision goes beyond baseball. It reflects a way of living. Balancing skill and spirit, data and instinct, individuality and teamwork, baseball and family, Ohtani continues to evolve. Perhaps the ideal player he strives to be is not a finished form, but an endless pursuit. Ending. The challenge and joy of being two-way. As the season approached its final stretch, American media began talking about Ohtani's chances of winning his 4th MVP in a 5-year stretch, calling it unstoppable and almost unfair. His overwhelming performance as a two-way player left no rivals in sight. Yet, Ohtani himself seemed less concerned with titles. For him, it was about the team, ensuring his teammates, especially the pitching staff, could fulfill their roles and keep winning. I think it's better for the team if every starter, not just me, but Yoshinobu and Tyler Glasnow as well, can give solid innings, even if they can't go 7 innings. In the postseason, sometimes it's more important to keep runs off the board for a few innings than to pitch deep into a game. That's what I want to focus on, and in that sense, I think I'm on a good path this season. For Ohtani, it's not just about pitching deep into games. By the final stretch of the season, fellow pitcher Hiroki Sasaki had also returned to the major league stage as a reliever. For him, the priority is clear. Victory for the team comes before personal records. This mindset lies at the very core of his vision of the ideal player. To Ohtani Shohei, the ideal player is never a final destination, but an endless journey. And through the 2025 season, what mattered most to him wasn't records or stats, it was being able to play without anxiety. I want to perform at my best, and I have some confidence in doing so. But more than anything, I want to play without worry. That's true whether I'm on the mound or at the plate. And the more injuries you face, the more you realize how hard that really is. Even with a 4th MVP within reach, and media acclaim calling his performance unmatched, Ohtani remained humble. For him, the journey was what mattered most. That's why the only words I can say are, thank you. Shohei Ohtani's vision of the ideal player is not one of perfection. It is the vision of someone who never stops learning, never stops evolving, and above all, never stops loving baseball. It is the vision of a player who, even in the face of injury, continues to chase his best performance, and who steps onto the field without fear, carrying a heart full of gratitude. Even when speaking about technique, he humbly begins with, I don't think this is the absolute correct answer. If Ichiro told him, you're holding the bat wrong, he would change the way he holds the bat the very next day. That openness to change defines him. His ambition shines through when he says, if I could pitch at 170 kilometers per hour, I'd want to try it. And his pure heart is shown when he calls his family 100 million times cuter. In 2025, Shohei Ohtani once again expanded the boundaries of baseball. Calling this year his last chance as a pitcher, he treated it as a regular season that is also rehabilitation, aiming for a full revival in the postseason. As a hitter, he achieved back-to-back seasons with 50 home runs, refining his ideal swing, hitting the ball's course straight from behind. But above all, what has changed the most is his mindset. On the mound, tension is given way to gratitude. To reach the point where he can truly say thank you, that is Shohei Ohtani's greatest evolution. This is not the end of his journey. It is simply another step in a lifetime devoted to baseball. A journey without a final destination, driven by passion, humility, and an unending love for the game.